Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Todd coming at you from another episode of Living Your Best Life. And I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little while, wherever you are in the world. I've been kind of like waiting for this interview, I'll be honest with you, for, a good while, because I have a fascination, for people that are in the medical industry, but not so much as traditional medicine. And everyone that's in the medical industry deserves the praise and all the recognition. And I love you all, but I definitely want to recognize those that are going off the beaten path a little bit to help people with more of a holistic way, if I can say that. So Dr. Mcdermott, thank you so much for being on the show this afternoon. And if you don't mind, I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are and tell us your journey and what attracted you to this path that you're on right now.
Well, good evening, everyone. Again, good morning, good afternoon, where depends on where you're watching from the world.
Right.
Thanks, Todd, for having me. It's a pleasure. It's a blessing. I am very passionate about naturopathy because I believe that one of our principles is that treating the underlying cause, right, of a dis-ease, not disease, but dis-ease. What got me into this is that I grew up, I'm from the Caribbean. And so I grew up home, with home remedies, drinking tea for this, taking this, rubbing that on this, so it was already like instilled in me, right? So because these are things that we can grow in our backyards, at home. And then my dad got sick back in 2001, actually. He's no longer with us. However, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the Western medicine gave up on him. They're like, listen, there's nothing else we can do. They sent him home to die. So he came across a naturopathic doctor, which I did not know existed at the time. And I saw he was improving, he was getting better. She changed his diet, she put him on some nutritional supplements, and he lived an extra 11 years because of it. So when I started seeing the progress of it, of how he was getting better, I said, you know what, let me look into this field. I mean, I always wanted to become a doctor, but I was caught in between not wanting to work with pharmaceuticals and so I wanted another way. So I studied it, looked into it, and I saw that there was a medical school for naturopathic doctors. And so and that's here I am today. I mean, he's no longer around. However, when he died, there was no cancer found in his body. Wow. So that is a true testament to naturopathy, right? So, so that's what had me, doing this today.
How long ago was that when, how long is it? Sorry to hear about your dad. How long ago was that since he had passed?
He passed in 2011. 2011. And he was diagnosed in 2001.
2001. So he lived all those years, where once again, Western medicine had, like you said, had pretty much said there's nothing more that they can do.
Right. Right. They had tapped out the resources and they just sent him home to die. Even when he went to go visit, the follow-up to his doctors, they were shocked that they saw him because they thought he was dead. Like they were shocked to see him walking and healthy and everything, like they were shocked. Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. And, you'd be amazed at what the body can do. And I think that's what we're missing. If we treat the body right,
right. It would treat us right.
Yeah, it'll treat us right, so you almost can't miss the mark on that. And like I said, this is not to bash the medical community as a whole, but,
definitely not.
Yeah. So, but, the one thing that, I, years ago, I experienced something, not that, of course, but I experienced something where I was going to see my private, medical doctor for just a routine visit. And, it was kind of interesting because all I saw going in his office were people in and out with, their prescription, pads, that they can take to the pharmaceutical, the pharmacy. And, it caught me off guard. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, they would go in and about 5 minutes later, they're coming back out. It's like, what's going on here? So it made me wonder, what was really happening. And it makes, if you're not watching this whole thing, if you're not aware of it, um, it's just totally, going past you. And I guess, what I want to ask you is, what are your thoughts, if any, about our medical care system right now?
Disaster.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's, our medical care system is actually not there to help us. It's actually there to just pacify, right? It's a cycle. So it's like, okay, one thing happened, then, okay, you got to go to your doctor. Then, okay, you get prescribed this drug, and then this drug, and you take this drug, and then it causes side effects. And then you got to go back to your doctor to another prescription for that side effect. So it's just it's a cycle, right? A cycle that is a very vicious cycle that I don't see ending anytime soon. But it's like a blessing and a curse at the same time, because you have some people who they can't afford any sort of health care, but they're able to access things like Medicare and Medicaid and all those different things that can allow them to see a doctor to get help, especially if it's something urgent, right? So the healthcare system can be a blessing and a curse at the same time, but I would say that it's a system that it shuts out the truth, if I can say that. And I've come across a lot of clients who are fed up of the system. They're tired of taking medication. They're tired because I'm taking them, and even some doctors are tired of not seeing their patients being helped, and they feel lost.
Interesting. And I don't mean to cut you off, but that is interesting because that's not the first time I've heard that. That, doctors themselves, they're governed, by these, these systems that are in place, these bureaucracies, and or the health insurance companies, and that's dictating how they service and work with their patients. And I think that's really, really tragic.
Yeah, I mean, some are very, like, it's heart rendering for some where there's nothing they can do because for Western medicine, they're not taught nutrition, they're not taught getting to the underlying cause, right? They're only taught to put a band-aid on something, right? So, and as you said earlier, we're not here to ban Western medicine at all. It has its place. Again, it can be a blessing because if it's something like urgent, surgery or something, it does come in handy. But long-term care is mostly what, I'm focusing on, where it's something that a lot of people are tired of. They want better care. They want a better alternative. They want a solution, not something that's just going to suppress what's going on. And, a lot of medical doctors, not a lot, I should say, I said a small percentage are actually going back to study nutrition because they've developed a curiosity and a passion to see, okay, I really want to see my patient get better. I really want to see, so they go and study, something similar to what I'm doing, or, functional medicine or something like that, so they can really help their patients. Do I see change anytime soon? No, I don't. But you do see a lot of the system where, again, clients are becoming more cognizant of their health. They're becoming more aware that there is better out there for me, so they're taking a little bit more control of that.
That's good. That's good. Because I think ultimately people just want to be well,
Yeah.
And
who wants to be in pain and suffering
and I think that's, one of the things that I've been thinking about for a while is, of course, you've heard the term, the sick care thing, but people, once again, they want to feel well again. And if that's the goal, then we have an interesting way of going about it in terms of our treatment, for those individuals. Now, as a society, I definitely want to run this one past you. Do you feel as though our health is in decline, and if so, why?
I would say that our healthcare system is more, I'm trying to watch my words. I don't want to say nothing incriminating. So, but I would say that as a society, our health is declining, right? for sure, because even though we try to do our best of eating healthy and taking what we need to take and exercise, but our environment is becoming more toxic, right? You know, a lot
When
of
you say
chemicals is
environment,
being
yeah, okay, gotcha, yeah.
there's a lot of chemicals that's being used, for different things that we use on a day-to-day basis, the air that we're breathing in,
Mhm.
and the processed foods and all these things. So I would say our health is more declining, even though you do see a steady percentage of people becoming more cognizant of their health. So they're taking charge by do their best to exercise, keep their stress level low, eat good whole food diet,
Yeah,
take their supplements, exercise and things like that. But I would say as a whole, there's a lot of work to still be done.
a lot of work to do,
As a
yeah,
whole, a lot of education has still to be done. There's still a huge percentage of people that doesn't value health.
right.
They don't see the importance of nutrition. They don't see the need for someone like me, right? Or even
Mhm.
like you, as a fitness. They're like, oh, well, I could just exercise whenever I want to,
Yeah,
So I would say as a health, our society is declining. Um, or you could say maybe decline, but maybe also almost like on a plateau,
okay,
you know.
okay.
Yeah. So if that's what I could
Yeah,
say.
yeah. And another thing too, and you mentioned it, you said stress, and I think the amount of stress that we're under these days. And, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, so I don't really go down that lane. But I tell you, it's from the amount of information that we're constantly consuming each day.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that information can be toxic. We don't realize, the programming, that does on our whole, in our minds. And so that is in itself some form of stress that you're, receiving, especially if you're one of those people that, watch the news every day. Yes, your stress levels are definitely up there. And
Yes,
of course, as we know, stress can definitely wreak havoc on our overall well-being.
for
And
sure.
yeah, yeah.
For
And
sure.
so is that something that, that you kind of like work with people on too, with regards to lifestyle approaches and things like that?
Definitely. I mean, I do help people that are under a lot of stress, mentally, emotionally, physically. As you said correctly, the world that we're living in right now is stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety levels are high, and so I do work with people to help them manage that.
Mm-hmm.
I usually mostly do more like talk therapy, like just talk them
Right.
through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also I do recommendations of, adaptogens. So adaptogens,
Mm-hmm.
what that is, there are herbs that help the body adapt to stress,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
So your adrenal glands, you have your adrenal glands that produce cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in this flight and fight mode all the time, that hormone cortisol is constantly being released. So it keeps your body in stress. And when your body's in constant stress, it actually suppresses your immune system. It lowers your brain function, you can't think properly, right? It has that fatigue, brain fog. You have that wired and tired type of feeling, so, when you're in that fight and flight mode constantly, you can do some talk therapy, but you definitely need something physical to help you adapt to that,
Yeah.
right? Whether it be
Yeah.
exercise, because exercise actually helps produce your feel good hormones. It reduces
Mm-hmm.
stress,
Mm-hmm.
and also eating certain foods and taking certain supplements and certain, herbs can help support that.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
that's usually
Gotcha.
my approach when it comes to, helping people manage their stress.
Right, right. I was gonna say, that's one thing that whenever I'm looking at or speaking to a new client, stress levels are, you know,
Yeah.
8 times out of 10 high. And
Yeah.
it's rare that I get an individual that is like, with 10 being the worst and one being, heaven. It's rare that I get a person that's, 5 and below. And that's in the South. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and so there, that needs to be addressed. And that's kind of like the silent killer,
Mm-hmm.
I feel. And then on top of that, like you're speaking about cortisol, if we're not getting the proper amount of sleep or
Right.
the quality
Yep.
of sleep, I think that plays a
Yeah.
huge
Sleep.
part. Yeah.
I mean, especially with the stress levels being high, you know, how can one sleep well, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and then the kind of society we're in now, you know, most people are going from job to job.
yeah,
I mean, even with what we're going through now, just stress is like, okay, how am I going to fend for my family next couple of years? Because,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, jobs are being, you know, there's jobs out there where I now need to have a certain status to be
Hmm.
employed, or
Hmm.
you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it's
Hmm.
that's the stress on its own, you know. So how
Yeah,
can one sleep? And of course, when your stress levels are high, you know, that cortisol levels keeps you that cortisol keep you up, because typically in the afternoon, your cortisol level is supposed to be dipping.
hmm,
But if it doesn't dip, it stays high, then it's hard time to fall asleep. And if you do fall asleep, you don't stay asleep.
yeah,
Right. So sleep
yeah.
is definitely important. And that's also something that I work with as well in terms of that, because, you know, sleep, again, you're talking about, you know, nutritional supplements, you're talking about exercise. Sometimes people can exercise at night just to tire themselves off so it helps them
Yeah,
go to sleep, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Me, it wakes me up. I can't exercise at night. It has to
Yeah,
be in the
it's like my
morning.
wife.
Yeah, it has to be in the morning. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't exercise at night.
yeah.
It wakes me up. So I have to, you know, I have to work out in the morning. But you know, sleep is huge, and it
Right.
ties into your cortisol levels as well. And if your cortisol levels is high, you're also going into the issues that you do face with weight gain, having issues with weight loss. So
Hmm.
stress actually affects weight loss. If that cortisol levels is high, it actually holds, it causes your body to hold on to fat more, and it doesn't let it go.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, that's another thing. So when someone's trying to lose weight, you know, it's one thing that I usually talk to my clients about is, okay, what are your stress levels like? Right.
Hmm.
Because you have to attend to that first before you can actually attend to the weight. You know, you
Mm.
have to decide, okay, you have to ask them, what are your stress levels like? What are your day-to-day looks like? What is your lifestyle like? You know, what does a typical day look for you? You know, do
Hmm.
you sleep? How's your sleep? You know, and those are a couple of questions that I ask, because it's good to address those things first. Because if someone is really stressed out, weight loss is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so and of course, with stress levels being so high, um, the first things that we don't normally do is run to the kitchen and grab an apple. So we don't. That's just not what we do. And
Yeah.
so you know, when we're stressed, we want to find something to help us feel good. And so
Mm-hmm.
therefore, you know, whatever things that we choose to kind of like gravitate towards to help us feel good, a lot of times it can be detrimental to our overall
Yep.
well-being, which a lot of times is sugar. You know, and so that's something that, you know, I definitely want to, you know, talk about, because you know, I come across, yeah, of course, over the years, you know, people were trying to talk about, you know, staying away from, you know, this low fat this and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that whole thing. But I've come across and come to understand now, we're pretty much carb addicted. When we, you know, we're addicted to the sugars that are so prominent in our daily diets. And
Yeah.
so, you know, what are some of the negative effects of sugar that you might be able to share?
I mean, also, you know, when you're stressed, being highly stressed also cause sugar cravings.
Yeah.
And right. And also, and that is also underlying cause of that is hormone imbalance as well, right? So that can cause sugar cravings. So usually when someone is just craving sugar, it's either a sign of a hormone imbalance, stress, or they need to detox, right? They need to cleanse.
Mm.
So I mean, some of the negative effects of sugars is, you know, it can actually create weight gain, like we were talking
Right.
about, right? It can increase the risk of heart disease. It can basically accelerate the aging process. And most people want to stay young. No one wants to get old,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, so these are some of the negative effects of sugar, you know, and it increased cellular aging. When your cells start to age, it also affects your actual age. And also when it affects your aging of your cells, you know, that's where you have increased oxidation, and oxidation is basically also cause inflammation. And then when you have inflammation, it also increases your risk of cancer, right?
Mhm.
So, they say that sugar is like a drug, because if you have enough of it, intermittent consumption of sugar can actually basically touch some of the senses in your brain that like your feel-good centers in your brain. So they have actually compared sugar to a drug, right?
Yeah.
So, you have some people who are really addicted to sugar, like they can't have enough. And you're right, like when you're stressed or when you're trying to complete that deadline or whatever, you're up late, the first thing you're thinking of is not an apple, like you said. It's more like a cookie or, ice cream or something, because some people think, okay, when I have sugar, I'm going to have more energy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me have the sugar. But whereas you're better off with the apple than having the sugar, right?
Yeah.
So, and those are some of the, and also risk of depression is increased when you have a
Interesting.
lot of sugar.
Yeah. That's a
So,
powerful one here.
yeah. Yep. So, I mean, when someone is trying to, our underlying topic is we're talking about weight gain and hormone imbalance. And, when someone's trying to lose weight and balance their hormones, sugar is something that they have to give up. And just giving that up alone can show a lot of changes. But you may have some people who they'll start giving up sugar and they start having withdrawals like a drug.
Yeah.
So there has to be some kind of replacement as well for that. I mean, I'm not to kind of go sideline too much, but there's also alternatives to sugar, right?
Yeah, please let's share.
Yeah, so things like agave nectar, which is mixed studies are about that, but that's low glycemic, so someone who's diabetic can have agave nectar. You have monk fruit extract, right? You have organic raw honey, because now they're having something else with honey now where they're using fructose corn syrup and adding coloring and all that.
Wow,
So yeah, so you make sure it's organic. Yes, organic. And sometimes you can just really don't do sugar at all. Like, you can actually replace your sugar with fruit, berries and apples and bananas. And, it depends on where you live in the world. You could access so many different fruits, so usually, when I'm talking to some clients, if they're addicted to sugar, and they're like ice cream, I said, how about you try a sorbet? How about you freeze your berries and blend it up with some water and some ginger and you have your sorbet, so sugar is huge. I mean, you can just eliminate sugar from your diet and you already will see improvements with certain things in your health.
And it's one thing, I do this demonstration where people that drink Mountain Dew sodas, and so maybe the 20 ounce, bottle or whatever. And so it's 77 grams of sugar in that one bottle. And so you're pretty much talking about almost like 20 some odd teaspoons of sugar. And no one in their right mind, would see themselves drinking anything with 20 teaspoons of sugar in it.
Correct.
But this is what they're doing. And it's they just don't realize it, realize it. Nope. And that's the trickery of marketing. That's the trickery of of these companies that can do what they do, and that's where a lot of people are just totally and are victims in this whole thing. I will say, but like you say, when you become locked in and addicted to that particular product and the sugar thing, you're locked. And it's like it's going to take some work to get out of. And I was just watching something on television the other night, yesterday, and it just fell in line with what I saw when I lived in New York City, in the Bronx. A lot of kids, when they go to school in the morning, they would go to the bodegas right on the corner before school, and they would always have like a colored drink, some kind of sugary colored drink, and maybe a bag of chips. And that was probably their breakfast, maybe. And so this is how they're starting out their day. And so
then that's how, yeah. I'm sorry to cut you, but I said, and that's why we have some of our kids that have attention deficit.
Exactly. And that's what that whole thing was talking about, attention deficit.
Right, ADHD. So sugar is huge. Sugar plays a lot on the brain. That's why a lot of our kids can't function in school. They can't focus. I mean, sugar is just one factor. There's others too, like gluten.
It's other
right?
things.
But sugar plays a huge role in that. And you're right. I remember too, the same thing, going to school in high school, and I see some kids or junior high school, and I see kids getting these college drinks and chips and cookies. And I'm like, so early in the morning?
So
Like,
early in the morning.
you can
Yeah.
have oatmeal at home? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it was just, it's
Yeah.
crazy. And these are the people that can't focus properly in school. They're
Exactly.
hyper, they can't stay still, they can't,
Yeah.
they become the class clown, right?
Yeah.
And not knowing that there's an issue there going on.
And how they meshed this thing together was kind of awesome, because and sad at the same time, because after that sugar crash, the kid is like, is crashing. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
not paying attention. Now they're just their day is spent,
Mm-hmm.
in class, because they've come off that sugar high and they've crashed. And
Right.
so now, they can't focus, or they're sleepy, or they're just,
Mm-hmm.
irritable at that point in
Yeah.
time. And so there is a problem, in our system, in what we do allow,
Mm-hmm.
as parents, as adults, and so I think, it's part policy, part, personal responsibility. So it goes, everyone's got to, like, come together, and I definitely applaud you for, doing your part, in terms of helping people understand,
Mm-hmm.
the environments, and what's trying to really attack them. And also,
Right.
this all leads to, like you said, the issues that we have and we experience in our society right now with our food choices, and sugar being one of those poisons, I feel, that is definitely leading us down a path of bad health. And so, in the African American community, diabetes has always been,
Hi.
a really hot topic. And when I was coming up, way back in before your time, more than likely, it's used to be called sugar in the blood,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's what it was called. And
Yeah.
so, that's been, what is diabetes? Okay. And what are the differences between type 1 and type 2?
Well, interestingly enough, we were just talking about kids buying that sugar, that colored drinks, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
this is the population that actually developed type 1 diabetes, so it's also called juvenile diabetes, right? So
Mm,
this tends to appear like between age 13, 14, or even sometimes it can even happen younger, at a younger age. It all depends on the diet, right? What they're consuming. Also, if their parents have diabetes, there's a chance that they can develop this as well, right?
mm,
Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune reaction where the body attacks the pancreas, because your pancreas is what releases the insulin. Insulin is a hormone, right, that is made by the pancreas. And when it's released, right, it's supposed to be taken up by our cells when we eat our food and turn into energy in our cells. But
mm,
that can't happen, right, when you have type 1 diabetes, right? So this type of person has to live on insulin for the rest of their lives. This is not something that you can manage it, right, with lifestyle changes, diet, things like that. But they're pretty much on insulin for the rest of their lives. An
mm.
adult can actually have type 1 diabetes as well, right? But mostly you see this in teenagers, young adults, right? Even though you're seeing type 2, unfortunately, in some kids as well. And the type 2 diabetes is non-insulin dependent diabetes. And
Mm.
that's pretty much where the pancreas is releasing insulin, but the body doesn't know what to do with it. So it's like the cells are not taking up the insulin to turn into energy. So guess what? It gets stored in the blood, right? And then
Mm.
that's where you have high blood sugar levels, right? And that's where they have insulin resistance, right? Where the blood sugar goes in the blood and it just builds up. So the
Mm.
pancreas will continue to produce insulin whenever, especially when we're eating, but then our cells are not taking it up to make energy.
Mm. Mm. So you
Mhm.
get stored, in other words.
It
You just
just
get stored.
right. It just stores in our blood, like which is not supposed to store as that. So basically, when the insulin is released, right,
Mhm.
it releases insulin and then it triggers glucose, which is a form of sugar, to go into our cells and then turn that into energy instead of just sitting there in the bloodstream, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then it gets stored up as that way. So this is where you have someone where they have their hemoglobin A1C is high or their blood glucose levels is high because they're not metabolizing that process. That process is not happening for them. Their pancreas is releasing the insulin, but the cells are not uptaking that and turning it into energy.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. Thanks for breaking that down, because that's something that, I don't think a lot of us really understand what's going on in the body as it relates to sugar and diabetes and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And, we talked a little bit earlier about stress and how some people may not even realize that they're, chronically stressed. And some people may not even realize that they are, in a pre-diabetic stage. Are there some signs that people can look for that might be a sign of concern with regards to diabetes?
Yeah, pre-diabetes, some people don't know that they're pre-diabetic unless because sometimes it doesn't present with any symptoms, and sometimes symptoms are there, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Some people don't know unless they're going to get blood work done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they see that, oh, my A1C is, at a certain number right before where it's not supposed to be, or my glucose levels is a little bit elevated, or sometimes one of those numbers is high. So one is probably normal. Usually, sometimes it's the glucose that's a little bit elevated, but the A1C is maybe close to being high, right? So that's how they'll know. And some other symptoms they can have is blurry vision, because blood sugar does affect your vision, excessive thirst, excessive urination. So if you find yourself urinating a lot, that can be a sign, right? Again, there's other things to wean out of that, because if you're a woman of childbearing age, excessive urination can be due to pregnancy, fibroids, things like that. So again, it all depends on the age and, who this person is. But some other signs are increasing urinary tract infections, increased anxiety. They're always irritable, nervousness, itchy skin, increased hunger. Sometimes too, if you get a cut and you realize it's not healing so well, right? You could already actually probably be diabetic and don't know.
Right. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
But thanks for that, because like I said, of course, you're always self-checking, it's like, okay,
right.
And so we're going to the bathroom too much, so I'm always counting, and just to be on the safe side. And so those are things that definitely, if you're listening, take heed to that information there.
Yeah.
And so now here's a three-part question, Doc, and this is something that I was thinking about here. One, is diabetes reversible? Okay. Two, if so, how do we reverse it? And three, is it a matter of lifestyle change?
Yes, so type 1 cannot be reversed according to, medical studies. It only can be managed through taking insulin all the time, right? And of course, making some diet and lifestyle changes. Type 2, however, is reversible, right? It's reversible through lifestyle changes, exercise, right? I've seen many people reverse their diabetes by just simply exercising, changing what they're eating, right? Abstain from certain foods and incorporating certain nutritional, supplements as well to support that process. And you can reverse diabetes type 2.
Gotcha. And that's good to know, because a lot of times, you hear the word diabetes and you think it's an automatic death sentence, and
right.
Or it's a downward spiral from that point on. And so it's good to know that it's not either, and it doesn't have to be either one of those, that you can take control of your health and turn it around.
Right.
And so it's definitely good to know. And so, Doc, in one of my in my business of training people, I would probably say 85 to 90% of the people that I train are women. And so when they come to me, of course, I get to know them, on a personal level with regards to their health and their wellness and things of that nature. And so we know that, insulin is one hormone that is in our bodies, but also one of many hormones. One of the things that I'm coming across more and more is what I always call PCOS, and that's because I'm too lazy to say the actual, for polycystic ovarian syndrome, but I always call it PCOS, and that is, I run across that quite often, and me not being a medical doctor or a doctor in general or any, I am struggling, with how to work with those individuals, and simply because it's they're working there, they're eating right, but it's the weight just doesn't seem to work.
It's not moving.
It's not moving. Yeah. So what is it about PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome? What can they do?
I think we all don't want to say out the whole name.
Yeah,
that.
So I came up with PCOS. It's very long. So, what is it about that, and how is it, impeding the weight loss process of a lot of women?
Well, the reason why it's affecting, weight loss process is hard for women to lose weight who have PCOS is because, the hormones are affected. There's a hormone imbalance going on, right? It's definitely a reproductive disorder. So, they also have insulin sensitivity, right? Which we were just talking about with diabetes. So a woman with PCOS has increased risk of insulin sensitivity. And when you're not able to balance your blood sugar well, weight loss becomes an issue, right? The increased levels of testosterone, right? Women, we produce testosterone as well, but we're not supposed to produce as much as men. So, PCOS will present with, like, some women will have like the facial hair, excessive growth facial hair, chest hair, on their arms. And also they can't ovulate. They have issues with ovulating, right? They cannot. So this person cannot get pregnant. They have issues with getting pregnant, right? So, this is why this would affect their weight loss process because of the hormone imbalance. And there's also some estrogen dominance going on as well, where they're producing too much estrogen hormones and are not having enough progesterone. So there's that imbalance there as well. So with the PCOS, there's an increased risk of obesity, right? Because this woman also, instead of her trying to lose weight, she's gaining weight.
Yeah.
But there's a spin to this, though. They also have something called lean PCOS. So you have someone who don't fit the picture of a typical PCOS person. She's slim. Wow. She looks slim. She works out. She's, weight loss is not an issue for her, but she may have some of the other symptoms like the hirsutism, right? The facial hair, the chest hair. She may have some little bit cysts on her ovaries, right? So, but that's not really investigated enough, right? But the general picture is of, the weight gain, the abdominal weight gain, mostly around the abdomen, and they're having the chest hair and the facial hair and everything like that. So someone with a woman with PCOS, as I was saying before, the risk of obesity is high, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. And there's also a genetic component as well with PCOS, right? Okay. So you have a lot of couples who are trying to get pregnant, and they're like, why can I get pregnant? So not just with weight loss, trying to lose weight, but why can I get pregnant? And they find out that's how they find out they have PCOS, right? So, this is why the women are having difficulties because of that hormone imbalance. I mean, they always wonder, okay, what causes this? Research shows there's no known cause. However, they notice that there's an increased androgen, which is male hormones, that's creating this issue. Right. That's the huge contributing factor to this, the insulin resistance and irregular menstrual cycle. So woman, she doesn't bleed normally. She has irregular menses or irregular periods, sometimes heavy, and sometimes they have normal periods, right? So that's the thing there.
So which one is potentially coming before the other, the chicken before the egg, or whatever that thing is? Is it the insulin sensitivity or the insulin issue first, and then PCOS?
It's the hormone issue that comes first. So the increased testosterone levels, then you have the no ovulation, unable to get pregnant. And with them having PCOS, then that increased the risk of the insulin sensitivity.
Wow. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I was wondering about that as you were speaking, which one came first, if that is kind of a thing. Now, without, if there are any natural solutions, and like I said, this seems to be a mystery, to so many, to society, and it might be one of those things where, we'll get to it when we get around to it. It's just not very, worth it to maybe focus on. But are there any natural solutions, and lifestyle changes that an individual can, do to turn it around if possible? I don't know.
I mean, losing weight, which is what they're having difficulties with anyway, but
Yeah.
losing weight is what will help reduce symptoms of PCOS, right? And reversing the type 2 diabetes. So they can focus, even though the type 2 diabetes came afterwards, but they can focus on that, right? And basically how you do that, whole food anti-inflammatory diet. So they're focused on nuts, seeds, like raw nuts, raw seeds, vegetables, whole grains, staying away from unprocessed foods, like your canned foods and the chips and the cookies and those type of things, the breads. They want to think of more like a Mediterranean type of eating. So you have your olive oils, and, if they do any little bread or pasta, it's like at the top of the pyramid, like the tip, they're eating mostly more of like nuts and seeds and vegetables and, things like that.
Right.
And they can improve their insulin sensitivity with protein and high carbs. High carbs meaning like your vegetables. Vegetables are carbs as well, right? Your broccoli, your collard greens, all those are carbs. Your quinoa, which is high in protein, which is a grain that cooks like rice. That's something that someone who has diabetes can have versus where they can't have rice. And protein helps stabilize blood sugar levels. So protein is important. So that could come from your nuts, your seeds, fish, wild caught fish. Your protein, you have protein in some of your vegetables too, like your broccoli, right? And also increasing iron-based foods, because some women with PCOS, they end up having heavy bleeding. So increasing their iron-based foods like lentils, chickpeas, blackstrap molasses, spinach, broccoli, goji berries, which is great for the circulation. Dates, are some example of iron-rich foods. So these are some of the things that they can do to help. And magnesium. Women with PCOS tend to be deficient of magnesium, right? So magnesium helps basically release some of the PMS, because they do get some of that PMS symptoms as well. So it will help them relax the muscles, help them with the PMS symptoms. It will help them with sleep. Magnesium is great for sleep. It's great for heart health, right? Because with PCOS, heart disease risk is increased. So magnesium is great for the heart, for heart health, keeping a healthy heart health. So women, according to studies, women who have PCOS are 19 times likely to be deficient in magnesium. So magnesium is huge. Wow. It's like the 4th most abundant mineral that we have, that we should be consuming, right? That exists in the earth, but we should be consuming. Right. So magnesium is important. Magnesium can help improve insulin sensitivity as well. Anxiety, it can help support blood pressure levels, help reduce some pain, right? Another thing that's really great for that is berberine. A lot of people don't know too much about that, because it's not really something that talked about, but berberine is an alkaloid. It's found in herbs like Oregon grape, barberry, golden seal, right? I'm sure people have heard of golden seal because it's pretty popular.
Yes.
That contains berberine, and that helps improve insulin sensitivity. It's according to studies, it can help low testosterone levels. So with a woman, she has high testosterone levels, right? So she need that level to come down and balance out. So it helps shown to lower testosterone levels, improve fertility, supports high blood pressure, and assist with the weight loss process. So these are some of the things. There are a lot more, but this is like the foundation of what a woman with PCOS can do to help, to support that.
Wow. Thank you so much. I mean, that was way more than I, because I'll be honest with you, Doc, I was at a loss, I was like, this, from what I understand, there's really, you almost can't do anything, but just knowing that lifestyle is going to have to be the primary focus. Just knowing that you're going to have to change, your conversation or your dialogue with yourself about food and the processed foods, and going more so, whole foods, and staying away from the processed foods. All of those things are going to matter.
Yes.
And just the, like you said, the supplements, magnesium. I had no idea, how important, that is, as it relates to, just that right there. And, in other parts of, our whole health, our whole bodies. And so, but thank you so much for that, because once again, I was at a loss, I'll be honest with you. And so I had a conversation with someone, not too long ago, and she, was doing pretty much everything right, with her, she was like, well, I'm not stressed. I'm not, I eat, okay. And I do exercise. And so she's, I just can't get the weight off. It just won't budge. And so my question to her was, when was the last time you, went to the doctor and had your hormones checked? And it kind of triggered, a memory. She's like, you know what? The doctor told me that I suffer from, she was trying to figure it out. And sure, and that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. And so, but, that's what the doctor shared with her, but I don't think the lifestyle suggestions came with that diagnosis. And that's, where people like you come in.
Yeah, mostly what's recommended for that in the Western medicine world is birth control. Oh, wow. So birth control and also diabetes medication like metformin. So usually that's what recommended for people, PCOS, the medical doctors, they will recommend that. Birth controls or diabetes medication to basically manage the insulin resistance part of it. And then the birth controls to help regulate the hormones. But then, if you're talking about a woman who still childbearing age wants to have kids, being on birth control long term is usually not the best option, right? So, it's not something that a lot of the Western medicine folks know that can be done alternatively. But there's some that can be done, and it's all, the body has the innate ability to heal itself. You just got to give it the right tools.
Yeah, there we go. Like you said earlier, you treat it right, it'll definitely treat you right. So now for us guys, now, we tend to think we can live forever. And we tend to think that we don't, because we don't deal with a monthly cycle, and we're kind of invincible, but as we find out, we're not.
No.
And we're probably in worse condition than women are. So for us, men, how do hormones affect us also?
I mean, men are less likely to go to the doctor, actually. They won't go to the doctor until they are bent over and can't move, So, I mean, unfortunately, men tend to find out something is wrong until later in their life, right? Because they don't go for regular checkups. They don't go for, the average man, I should say, because you do have some men now that are very, on top of their health, right? But hormones, I mean, you guys have hormones just like we do, I mean, men go through andropause too, just like women go through menopause, right? And so you have testosterone, that's your main hormone, that basically that's what, helps you the boy becomes a man, right? So it affects the voice changing, the bone mass, sperm production. Testosterone helps with sex drive. So even like a woman as a man gets older, and testosterone levels decrease, those things can also change as well, right? So this is why sometimes when a man ages, it's good for them to be on certain nutritional products, or should I say some herbs that can help balance those levels out, right? Exactly. But also if there's an imbalance, if there's an issues, right? And usually some of those imbalances are, testicular cancer, prostate cancer, those are some of the common ones among men when it comes to hormones, I should say. And then you also have your hormones like your thyroid hormones, your stress hormones, because men do stress too. They may handle a little bit differently. but they do carry stress as well that can be high, and that can also create the whole weight gain around the stomach area, for men. So men can have hormonal issues as well. It's just that it just manifests a little bit differently, right? They don't have ovaries to have polycystic ovarian syndrome, but they do have testicles. You could develop testicular cancer. They have a prostate that helps you produce your sperm, that you can have prostate cancer, right? And prostate is a gland. So it is really important that men take care of themselves as well. And also, as you get older, maybe like mid-age, and also if you have risk in your family, your dad had a cancer, or your brother or uncle or great-grandfather, grandfather had health issues, that should be a picture of, okay, let me go to the doctor and get checked by the time I'm 40 or so, because I'm at risk. You don't have to have those things, but if you find out enough, okay, I'm at risk, then you can now stop those things by changing your lifestyle and trying to stay ahead on top of it, right?
Right. Well, guys, if you're out there listening, we're not out of this. We're still we're still in it too. So make sure that you definitely take heed to this information once again. So Doc, as we come in for a landing, I definitely appreciate your time, and it's been such a blessing, and I've learned quite a bit, so thank you once again. And so I just want to, the question I do have for you is, where do we go from here? How can we, like I said earlier, how can we get back to wellness?
It starts with us. The power is in our hands. We should look at, what did our great grandfather do? Because we're not living as long as we used to anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Or what did our great grandfather do? What did our grandfather do? What did they do to live as long as they did, if they did live long? Because of course the foods are not the same, the lifestyle are not the same. However, if we try to go back to that, we can try to emulate some of those things. And if we control what we eat, what we put into our bodies, what we put on our bodies, right? Because also, if you're putting all kind of lotions and stuff like that on your skin, right, that's toxic, that can affect your health as well. What you eat, what you drink, how we live our lives, is important. So it's in our power, to control that. Even someone who's on a budget can still live healthy, right? Is what you choose to buy, right? So is that, do I buy a burger or do I buy a salad? Right. Yes, right. A burger that's a huge difference. A burger can be $1 and a salad could be $8. However, you think about, okay, is this food hurting me or is it helping me? Right. Mm-hmm. Or someone on a budget can buy, the things to make a salad. You can get 99 cents lettuce and tomatoes, right, for 40 cents or something, mm-hmm. At your local market, farmer's market, right? Yeah. So it's basically what we choose to do, right? We cannot wait on someone to come and save us. We have to save ourselves. We have to make the choice that, okay, what is it I'm going to do to make my health better? What is it I'm going to do to change the trajectory of my life and of my future, of my kids, of my children's children, right? Because if we don't make that change, then who comes after us may not be inspired to make that change for themselves, right? So we have to take the power back into our hands. And, we also need to voice out, if we're not happy with our healthcare system, we need to now voice out, because the more of us that there's power in numbers, the more of us that's saying, hey, maybe you're going to your primary care physician, you're like complaining about something. Maybe the more of us that are doing that, then the more that they'll be pressured into, or inspired, I wouldn't say pressured, but the more they'll be encouraged to look into alternative things. Like, we need to take better care of our society. We need to take better care of our people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. What a way to end it.
Yeah.
What a way to end it. And I always say, you either pay now or you pay later.
Right.
So, and my wife always says you either pay the farmer, ER, or the pharma, PHARMA.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, it's you got those options. Yep. So Doc, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, my goodness. Like I said, I learned so much. Please let everybody know where you are, how they can find you. I'm going to definitely do my part on, getting people, in your in your space, because you have so much to offer, and toxic friends. Get rid of your toxic friends. And so I'm going to be hanging out with Dr. Mcdermott because she's full of positive stuff.
Yeah.
So where can we find you, Doc?
I am in New York City. However, I do my consultations virtually. So if anyone want to find me, they can email me at truevinewellness@gmail.com. They can follow me on Instagram at Truevine Wellness or Facebook Truevine Wellness. I am on TikTok as well at Dr. K McD&D. So
Right.
pretty much those are the places that I am right now.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you so much once again. And when you said that you were on TikTok yesterday, I was like, dang, I gotta get to work on TikTok.
I'm still working on it. I mean, you see a couple videos, but I'm still working on it, still working on it.
I got you. So once again, Doc, thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you for having me again, Todd. It was awesome. It was a pleasure. It was a blessing. I'm always here to serve.
Thank you so much. And so everyone, thank you for once again hanging out with us. I know you got just so much wealth out of this conversation this afternoon, and I hope I didn't talk too much. And but I just couldn't help it.
You were good.
Wow,
you're good.
I just was like, I'm just so inspired and motivated by you. So I'm going to definitely I'll be reaching out. But once again, everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Reach out to her. Okay, that's why she's here. Okay, reach out to her. And these people, they're out there in the trenches. Okay, they can provide you with the solutions to help you live best life, your healthier life. Okay, and so that's what we want to do, everyone. So once again, everyone, thank you so much, and we're going to catch you next time with another exciting and awesome guest. So once again, y'all be good and be safe out there. Y'all take care now. Bye-bye.